Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the PH Journals podcast. This week's episode has been bugging me for some time now, to be completely honest with you, because I've been tossing it around in my head. Should I do something about it? Shouldn't I do something about it? I'm extremely passionate about my experience in the Kruger National Park, and I wanted to share my viewpoint on how this whole thing has changed my perception, not only in the hunting industry, but as a tourism attraction as a whole. How can we merge two worlds together that have been at each other's throats for decades now? And it's taken me some time. It's taken me almost 3 weeks to get to this point. But I'm stoked we're here. And I've got so much to share with you in this week's episode of the podcast. Before we do that, guys, I've officially the podcast is officially being monetized through various different platforms. And forever grateful. It's taken us a long time to get here. It's taken us more than 3 million downloads to get to this point. However, I hate doing this. I really do. Honest to God, it's not my favorite thing to do. But being monetized, we had the opportunity to back look and dive down into our analytics of the show. Now, while the downloads and the views and the watch time and all that sort of stuff is absolutely outstanding, it's mind-boggling to figure out that less than 7.5% of the people that actually listen to this podcast or watch it on various different platforms, YouTube, Carbon TV, wherever it may be, actually subscribe to the channel. Now, for me to keep doing what I'm incredibly passionate about, I need as many subscribers. Yes, the views are wonderful and the downloads are absolutely incredible, but it's the subscribers that bring sustenance to the channel. So guys, please, if you are watching this or listening to this from anywhere across the world on any different platform, whatever platform you may be listening or watching this podcast on, please do me a big favor. It takes less than 5 seconds to do. Hit the subscribe button, turn on any of the notifications, and if you enjoy this episode, interact with it a little bit. Every little bit helps, and I can't thank you guys enough for those of you that have done so. But like I said, it's a scary figure to realize that only 7.5% of my total audience are actually subscribing to the channel. I know it's a pain in the ass, and I know across so many different platforms and so many podcasters and influencers and all this sort of stuff out there asked to do the same. But this is a genuine request coming from a genuine person. I can't do this alone, and I need your guys' help and support. So to those of you that have, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. You guys know how much it means to me. I keep doing what I love doing, podcasting, bringing conservation to a hunter's platform, and then taking my beautiful country, South Africa, to the rest of the world. So without further ado, we've spoken on. Let's get into this week's episode of the podcast. Cool, guys. So like mentioned before, it's been a couple of weeks. Early mid-September, we got into the Kruger National Park. Sorry, before I carry on, just a quick disclaimer. I am still struggling with pneumonia. I got back from the Kruger National Park. I had diverticulitis. I was diagnosed with diverticulitis, pneumonia, and recently just went for blood tests and ECGs. Suffering with a little bit of heart condition. Nothing to be concerned about, just really need to get my eating habits and everything back into track. But a quick tip out there, guys, if you are traveling to South Africa or in Africa, anywhere in Africa in the warmer months, stay hydrated. I've got incredible products, MTN Ops. I will tag them down below in this description. I clean forgot to take them with when we went into the Kruger, so my hydration levels were low, and hence why I came back with all these diagnoses. And It's not fun. It wasn't fun. I was in hospital for a little over 3 or 4 days. Fortunately, I'm doing much better now. Still got a bit of a pneumonia. So if I'm coughing and spluttering on this podcast, I do extremely apologize about that. But the chest is on the mend. So mid-September, headed off Kruger National Park. Bucket list item. Always wanted to do it. We head up north. It's about a 12.5-hour drive for us from Queenstown. We get to the Kruger National Park, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked with what I am met by. Now, not only are they suffering severe drought at the moment, I wouldn't say severe, but it is a dry period that they are going through, but the sheer deterioration of the environment at the south end of the Kruger from Crocodile Bridge pretty much upwards was devastating to be welcome to. Excuse me. But with that being said, our initial plan was to head up to the Kruger, spend, I think it was 6 or 7 days up there, and then travel to various different parks. We stayed in Bergendal the first 2 nights, and then for the rest of the time, we stayed in Skukuza, which was absolutely outstanding. So to top this all off, and the reason why I've been back and forth with doing this podcast is that the Kruger National Park has got an extremely sentimental value to me. I don't know why. When I've read books on it, when I've read the individual backstory about why Kruger National Park started. It was initially started by Paul Kruger in 1898, and it was just a Sabi game reserve. And it officially became the Kruger National Park, I think, in 1926. But the reason for him to do that was to preserve the park from hunters. At that time, South Africa was a huge hunting destination. Of course, there were a lot of wars that were going on around the place. We had the Boer War that went on during this period, the Zulu Wars, and all that sort of stuff. But it was a strong destination for foreigners to come out and enjoy the fruits of hunting. Likewise, South Africa was also going through a period of understanding that there were a lot of land wars going on, and with that happening, the wildlife suffered. So my initial consent on the Kruger National Park was it was a great way to preserve wildlife while this chaotic period was going on in South Africa. And although a lot of documents have stated that Paul Kruger initially started it to preserve the wildlife from hunters, I think there were a lot more external factors. I'm not saying that wasn't true, but I think there were a lot of more external factors than just hunting. What Paul Kruger's initial intention was, which was wonderful, and hence why it's such a magnificent piece of national God or national treasure we should look after. So the Kruger has always been one of those items that I've always just really wanted to tick off my bucket list, and I wanted to do it properly. I wanted to do self-driving tours. I didn't want to go and sit on the back of a game viewer. I wanted to do everything myself. I wanted to do complete freedom. And that's how we did it. We stayed in camps. We didn't camp, but we stayed in Skukuza. We stayed in Bergendal. We stayed in all these various spots, and I got to see places like Satara and Lower Sabi and all the beautiful resorts that are within the Kruger National Park. And it's an incredible experience. It really is, being able to bounce around. But cool. So, what am I talking about? What am I on about? Why was I so devastated with? For disclaimer, I'm probably going to generalize quite a bit in this podcast. So I do apologize if I do offend anyone straight off the bat. And my intention is not to badmouth the Kruger National Park. I love the Kruger National Park. I am definitely going to go back there as many times as I possibly can while I'm still breathing. I want to preserve it. I want to look after it. My daughter had an absolute joy. April loved it. I want to preserve it for her. And the only way I can do that is by voicing my concerns about what I witnessed and experienced up there. I pride myself on being a conservationist. So when I look at the Kruger National Park, it should be the flagship model of conservation, right? But I left there asking more questions than having answers. So yeah, I do apologize yet again. I'm going to read quite a bit of my preparation work that I've put in. The reason for that is I don't want to misguide anyone. And I've done a lot of work and I've done a lot of research in the back office of this whole thing. So I want to make sure that my stats, my statistics, my opinions are generally correct. And my perspective, I've had time to dwell on and really put it down on pieces of, on technology now, but put it down and really talk about how my emotional feel was at any given time in the Kruger National Park. Cool. So just to highlight some basics of the Kruger, I mentioned that it was established in 1898. It was originally the Sabi Game Reserve. Officially became the Kruger National Park in 1926. Shit, I was right. The size now has reached up to 19.5, or let's call it 2 million acres, or hectares, sorry. That's roughly about the size of Wales or Israel, which is crazy to think. It borders Mozambique in the east and Zimbabwe to the north. It's home to over 500 different species of birds, 150 mammal species, and 100 different species of reptile. Of course, it includes the big five. Tourism. It is the largest park in South Africa, and it attracts the most amount of tourism, which on average is 1.8 million visitors per annum. It is managed by SANParks. Now, SANParks is a government-operated institution, and I must say, for all my dealings with SANParks over the years, at Elephant Park, wherever it may be, SANParks has got to be one of the most efficient government establishments that we have. They're incredibly efficient. I must say, the professionalism of their guards within the national park, within Kruger, the professionalism of the individuals helping us at the check-in desks when entering the park and at the resorts was out of this world. But I'll get into a little bit more of that as we go on in this podcast. So, excuse me. I'm going to start with some perspective. Like I mentioned, the Kruger National Park stretches a little bit over 2 million hectares. The amount of game that is in that corner of Africa or South Africa is absolutely astonishing. Now, I got some statistics from ChatGPT, from SANParks, and from this book I purchased in the Kruger. And every single one of them had plus minus 31,000 elephants, 12 to 14,000 buffalo. I think that number is a little bit lower. I really do think it's closer to the 20,000 mark. 2 to 2,500 lions, 1,000 to 1,500 leopard, more than 7,000 hyenas, and 130,000 impalas spread across the park. Rough estimate. Now, when you break this down, it works out to one large animal for every 60 hectares. My concern about these numbers, and this was my sheer shock when we drove through the Kruger National Park gates, is the decimation of land. As far as the eye could see, as we entered at one of the south gates here, Milan Gate, on our way to Bergendal. The amount of dead trees, there was hardly any grass. There was literally like these little dust tornadoes wherever you looked. I mean, when we got there, it was extremely hot and humid, and there was a slight breeze to it. We couldn't check in until about 2 o'clock, so we arrived there at about, I think it was 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. We left here 7 or 8 o'clock previous night. And when we got there, I was absolutely shocked. I was like, we saw a lot of impala straight away, but there was no leaves on the trees. The trees were all dead, pushed over. You can see the decimation from the elephants in the area. It was mind-blowing. And I still say to Henri, I said, I can't believe this. This is the Kruger National Park. It's meant to be home to all these animals. And is this drought? Is this overpopulation? I mean, what is causing this like intense vegetation collapse? So I did a bit of deep diving, and I came up to the realization as we went on, you wouldn't go more than a kilometer without seeing an elephant. And sometimes there were more than 5 or 6 elephants in a pod. And as we went on, it became extremely clear to us that the Kruger National Park is extremely overpopulated. I wanted to know what the carrying capacity of the Kruger National Park. I didn't see it as 60 hectares per one large animal. I highly disagreed with that number. Compared to browsers, grazers, all of that sort of stuff, and vegetation collapse due to natural phenomenons like a drought, which is currently happening up there. It's extremely dry. Driving through the park, I was like, there's no ways that 60 hectares will be able to sustain one large animal. It's way less than that. I would almost think that you could almost double it. 120 hectares need to sustain one animal. And as we went on, like, it became apparent that there was too many buffalo, which are grazers. There were too many, there are by far too many elephant. The main attraction was predators, and the behavior of the guards was disgusting. But before I get into that, I want to highlight, because I'm going to get to a point of what I'm trying to achieve here. I want to talk about the management problem. So when I did a bit of a deep dive, there was an ecological study done a couple of years ago. I don't have the dates down, and I wish I did. But the sustainability of the Kruger National Park on 2 million hectares is 7,000 to 8,000 elephants. We are sitting on 30 plus minus 31, could be more, And that study or those numbers were read out in 2020. So sustainable level of elephants is 7 to 8,000, not 31,000. This is why there is such a massive destruction of trees, vegetation, and all of that going on in the Kruger National Park. Years ago, I'm going back more than a decade now, the management structure on controlling animal species. It happens with sandparks in Addo. I know that for a fact. We get emails. But it stopped in the Kruger National Park. Culling was a management strategy that the Kruger implemented many, many years ago. The populations were controlled and the ecosystems remained balanced. There was a massive public outrage, not from South Africa, fueled largely by the international sentiment, and the practice was immediately stopped. Okay? Perception, Cecil the Lion, and all these sort of things. I've always said in my podcast that us as human beings have created this fake ecosystem. We have. Let's not beat around the bush. The Kruger National Park is created. It is not a natural occurrence. It's prevented animals from naturally migrating. The migration season has just happened. The Kruger National Park does not accommodate animals that would like to migrate out of the park to a better water source, better feeding ground. There's talks about them pulling down fences between Mozambique and Zimbabwe. I don't know how that looks. But it prevents these animals from doing that. Hence, over the years, the animals have learned to accommodate themselves within the park vicinity, migrate within the park, and develop feeding habits and all this sort of stuff within inside. And it's brought down from generation to generation. So the animals now that are there, hopefully, whether it's an instinct within them, and say we had to pull the fences down tomorrow, they would naturally migrate to a better facility during the migration season to give birth and all that sort of stuff. However, the Kruger National Park is a fake ecosystem we have controlled. We have created. Now we need to control it. And over the years, it's been neglected thanks to management. And I'm getting to that. And this is, again, my personal perspective on it. The park today is bursting at its seams. Animals competing for space and food. However, the predators are thriving, which sounds great, doesn't it? But it's leading to an abnormal kill rate and an imbalance across the prey species. But predators are what keeps the wheel of tourism turning. Getting into the stats of tourism. The Kruger National Park, on average, between 1.5 to 2 million visitors every single year, and generates 1.8 billion to 2.4 billion in tourism revenue annually. It employs more than 9,000 individuals across the park and on outlying areas, from rangers, camp staff, cleaners, tour guides, the list goes on. My personal frustration comes in here with the staff. I've always been proud, and this is my first point, of the staff within Kruger. I've always been proud of the hospitality of South Africa. No matter what lodge I've ever been to, no matter facility I've ever been to that accommodates tourism, the staff have been incredibly friendly, accommodating, hospitality of the next level. It wasn't like that in the Kruger National Park. And I can see why. Because the influx of tourism, let's be honest, 1.5 to 2 million tourists a year running through that park, dealing with people's crap on a daily basis, you can definitely sense the burnout within the staff. Although I started this podcast, and in the beginning of the podcast I said the staff were incredibly professional, they weren't friendly. They weren't accommodating. They never went the extra mile. There were nights where we had special requests from trying to move from one camp to another. Not accommodating at all. It's fine if they can't do it personally. That's fine. But try and make a better plan about it. The tour guides within the park, I believed, were the better ones from the guys outside of the park. It was absolutely mind-blowing. We went to one picnic spot. There must have been more than 100 game viewers at this picnic spot. I was completely blown away. Now, while the rest of us self-driving individuals had to obey by a 50 kilometer per hour speed limit within the park, there were specific scenarios where obviously these rangers talk to each other all the time, and you could see they were flying past, and next minute they're passing you, and you know, they're rushing to get to the next sighting. You know, they want to be there. And you get to these sightings. The one sighting we had, beautiful leopard in the tree. That's where I took majority of my Instagram photos of this leopard. Had just killed an impala probably the night before or that morning. And we get there and it's absolutely chaotic. It's chaotic. There's individuals that are parked. These guards are coming in and they cutting people off. I mean, there was actually a scenario where two guards reversed into one another, smashed each other's headlights and lights out, acted like nothing had happened as long as their clients got the shot, and then pack up quickly, off to the next one. Somebody spotted wild dogs down there on S26 or S16 or whatever it may be. Set sail, get to that point, snap, load up, off to the next one. There was never any attention to detail. There was never show me this lizard. What is the significance of this tree? There was a lot of that disconnect within these tour guides. The one day we were driving extremely slowly. One of my favorite animals is a steenbok. There was a steenbok next to the car. And all I wanted to do is get this really nice photo. It was a beautiful old ram. And I'm driving so slowly, and the steenbok's literally just out to the left of my window. And this tour guide comes right in front of me, stops, and it's like, what are we looking at? I'm like, there's a cool little steenbok over here. And he looked at me like I was mad. Reversed his game viewer and set off. And I was just like, this steenbok is probably close to about 8 years of age. Past its prime. Old as nails. I'm never going to see an animal of this caliber ever again in my life. He's probably sitting about 6 or 7 inches. It was giant, massive. I'm probably never going to see it again. Ever. And your clients didn't even take a photo of that. And that proved my point about photographic tourism to what hunting brings. That animal had a meaning to me. But because it wasn't Simba, because it wasn't a hyena, or because it wasn't a giraffe, because it wasn't an elephant or an animal of magnitude, it didn't entice anyone on that game viewer to want to stop and take a photo of that. Even though they will never ever see a steenbok like that ever again in their lifetime. And that saddened me, because those tour guides should have known better, should have shown them that this is conservation, that these animals are thriving, well, miraculously thriving in some of the most treacherous conditions. This steenbok has probably seen off predators, and in the past 8 years of its life, it's been incredibly blessed to get to this point. Its partner for life has probably been eaten by a jackal or caught by a lynx or a leopard, whatever the case may be. And Yari is just strutting in stuff next to the road, proud as ever, seeing the last couple of days of his life out. But there was no meaning to it to anyone else other than myself. And I'm very fortunate, because I think that's what hunting teaches you. And that's the true meaning of conservation, is understanding that that animal has more of a significant meaning than just what the books tell us or a movie. And to me, that's special. So I was disgusted with the staff. I think they can be a lot more friendly, accommodating, pleasant. I was extremely appalled by the game guards, rangers, whatever you want to call it. Now, on that topic, the guys who do private tours, there's a couple of them I follow on Instagram. They do an exceptional job. The sunsets, everything. So that side of it, I can completely understand. Trust me when I say this, I'm talking about the commercial guys. The game viewers, the guys rushing off to every single spot because they've got it on a WhatsApp or a radio call. Majority of those guys are in it for the completely wrong reason. They're pushing through numbers. Don't get me wrong. It happens in every industry. I understand that. But when we're talking about livelihoods on the line here, when we're talking about conservation on the line here, there has to be a better approach personality-wise and a better responsibility by those game viewers, whatever company they work for. There needs to be a better responsibility from that company. Because it's not just about getting to a leopard kill, taking a photo, shipping off to the wild dogs, shipping off to the lion sightings or anything. It's about education. It's about conservation, and it's about understanding what more that part means to. There were moments in there that my breath was absolutely taken away. From sunsets to watching a kingfisher to a brown eagle eating, or had just caught a leg of on and was fending a jackal buzzard off of it. Those were moments that were captured in my mind for the rest of my life. Because I will never ever get to see that again. Or never those scenarios ever again. But while we're watching this brown eagle trying to beat this jackal buzzard off, there were 2 or 3 game viewers that are just crawling past us. Just racing next to us, getting to the next sighting, and actually disturb those 2 birds up into the tree. Fortunately, they didn't go far, so we could capture more photos of it. But I was disgusted. I was absolutely disgusted with the behavior of those individuals. Now I know for a fact not every one of them are like that. But for the vast majority that are, it was shocking to see. And after many conversations for individuals that have been going there for years and years and years, even decades, it's never been this bad, this commercialized, ever. And that scares me, because predators sell photos, and in the Kruger situation, photos sell bookings. The more lions you see, the more you're going to come back. That's how the business model is made. Even if it means that the park needs to be overpopulated with predators. Sad reality we need to face. Now, with all of this being said, with all of this negative stuff that I've brought forward, I'm extremely optimistic about the future of the Kruger National Park. I believe that we can get better management, number one. But number two, I think the Kruger National Park can be used as a turning point in society. Now, what do I mean by that? Imagine individuals that hate hunting and individuals that believe in hunting as a conservation tool merge and understand that without them working together, there might not be a Kruger National Park. So take out the emotional aspect of it and put in the scientific and economical sustainable model. So I'm going to run a hypothetical comparison. Imagine if the Kruger did what the Yellowstone National Park did a couple of years ago and issued controlled hunting tags. These tags would be put to auction, would be given to clubs such as SCI, Dallas Safari Club, the BCS or the Bass World in the UK, various different organizations to auction off at various different banquets, at the SCI show, wherever it may be. Because if we're looking at it as a sustainable model, these are the tags that I say would have to happen or would have to be, and I'm being extremely conservative out there because based on the why have I lost my tongue now? The ecological footprint of it all, the ecologists, they suggest that 7,000 to 8,000 elephants. We've got 31,000 at the moment. So what if we put 10,000 tags out there? You have a 1 in 10,000 chance to pull an elephant tag. Sure, you're going to have to pay for it on an auction. Conservatively, I know this won't be the price, but understand that it will vary from auction to auction, but these are going to be once in a lifetime opportunities to hunt these magnificent beasts in the Kruger National Park. If we drew $40,000 per tag, that's $400 million just for 10,000 elephants that would need to be sold off. On lion, if we took off 1,000 lion, gave out 1,000 tags at $60,000 per tag, that's $60 million. Conservatively, 10 leopard, a very low price of $35,000. That's $350,000 for the 10 tags. Buffalo, I know this price will vary, but I've put it high. I've put it at $20,000 per buffalo tag. The reason why I've done this is because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Remember this. The buffalo in the Kruger National Park probably aren't the biggest, but there are some exceptional buffalo bulls there. From scrum cap bulls to harbor, you will walk out of there with a bull you can be incredibly proud of and bursting at the seams. It would be outstanding to shoot one of those buffalo bull. So conservatively, there's more than 15,000 buffalo in the Kruger National Park. If we just had to take off 2,000 tags at $20,000 a tag, that's $40 million, which brings it to a staggering total, all added together, of $500 million That's 9.5 billion rand at today's current exchange rate. That is 4 times more than the Kruger's current tourism income, achieved with a fraction of a human footprint at certain periods of the year, because this will be done during hunting season, and it wouldn't stop tourism into the park. You could corner off at 2 million hectares, you could corner off the top section if that was out for hunting, if that block was, because these tags will be split across the Kruger, you could corner off sections of the park for hunting purposes. Sorry guys, excuse me. What does this do? I haven't even factored in the accommodation aspect of it. People will be utilizing the park as accommodation. This is purely just animal numbers. What can it be used for? Well, it will definitely create jobs. Imagine how many more trackers and individuals that would need to be hired to accommodate this. It will definitely create more jobs. It will fund anti-poaching units. It will support rangers' families, not just financially, but the meat needs to go somewhere. Without them selling it off, you're not going to get rid of 10,000 elephant. Without them selling it off, distribute the protein across the villages, the various different villages, the outlying villages of the Kruger National Park. It will improve veterinary and ecological monitoring. It will restore degraded habitats. And like I mentioned before, it will create an opportunity for cheap protein into the surrounding households. And not only that, it will bring more tourism money into their homes. That is my outtake on this whole thing. My experience of the Kruger National Park down south, or south areas of the park, was extremely commercialized. It was uncomfortable to see. The more north we went, the better it got. There was a lot more grass, there was a lot more vegetation. There was activity around the rivers. It was beautiful. It really was. It was spectacular to see. But I couldn't be held blind to the fact that there was more damage being done than good. Emotion versus ecology. The uncomfortable truth is we've allowed emotion to replace science in how we manage our wildlife. Tourism is a magnificently beautiful thing. Different cultures, different families, different environments. Sharing it with one another is beautiful. But being able to bring that concept to the bush is magnificent. Hunting is a regulated and ethical way of providing funding and population control that nature and the Kruger National Park desperately need. It's a false ecosystem that we have created, and we are the ones that have to manage it. And we can only do that sustainably through hunting. Don't send culling teams in there. It's not feasible. Create the opportunity for us to deliver the best conservation practices for a place like the Kruger National Park. I personally believe that the Kruger National Park allows us to bring two enemies together. I personally believe that these two worlds don't have to be enemies. Tourism and hunting could operate together, one feeding the soul and the other one sustaining the ecosystem. The point of showing the future generations elephants and lions is so important to me right now. I had a look at my daughter. There was moments where I would look over my shoulder and see the smile on my daughter's face. And one day we were driving back from the nursery, and this leopard just so casually walked across the road. We were the only cars there. And I caught a glimpse of how my daughter appreciated that moment. And it's been one of the conflicting moments in my life where I've looked back and thought about what if that moment will never be there ever again? What if these animals were taken completely out of our hands, mismanaged, and those moments will never ever happen again? I get cold, I get goosebumps thinking about it right now. But it's not all doom and gloom. Like I said, I'm optimistic. The Kruger National Park is beautiful. I highly recommend that any individual coming out to South Africa, the Kruger National Park is something that you would need to go and see for yourself. It is beautiful. It really and truly is. Paul Kruger's vision that has come to life is something out of this world. To be able to sit and appreciate that moment with the leopard, there were so many of them, but that leopard as a hunter, I realized very quickly that when we're hunting these species, especially something like the leopard, when we're constantly worried about our internal environment, like trying to keep quiet and get your client into the right position as the leopard's feeding or stretching out into the bait. Because at any given moment, if there's a slight crack of a twig or a click of the rifle or something like that animal is completely gone. So your focus at the time is so embedded into this blind, and the torch has got to be at the right angle, and everything counts down to the moment. So you're really not appreciating the beauty of that animal. You don't get the opportunity to. But when you're in the Kruger National Park, you're forced to. You're forced to take a moment and breathe. Watch the animal through the camera lens or through your binoculars, and really get a true sense of the power and the distortion that animal has. It's something completely out of this world to experience. I'm very fortunate that I get to experience both worlds, and I appreciate both worlds as much as anything else. I've heard guys never wanting to go to the Kruger Park because they think it's a bunch of hogwash and commercialized and this, that, and the next thing. But as a hunter, I truly got the opportunity to really embrace and connect with animals that I've appreciated, envied, and respected for so many years. I'll take so many moments away from the Kruger National Park. It was beautiful. And literally, we've started planning our next trip back. That's how good it was. But I'm trying to stay as optimistic as I possibly can. Because it's a harsh reality to look at something deteriorating when there's not much control you can have over it. When you know that your possible concept and answer to the problem might be a great solution, but you need everyone else in the room to agree to it before it can be implemented. And that's the hard reality to it. All right, guys, I hope I haven't waffled on, and I hope I've made some I hope I've made some good points. And I hope people will listen to this podcast and understand that this wasn't written overnight. This has been 2 to 3 weeks in the making. And it hasn't been an easy decision to air either. So my closing thoughts. As I left the Kruger, I felt awe and disappointment. Awe at its beauty and disappointment at how far we have drifted from true conservation. It's not about killing animals. It's about managing them responsibly. It's about ensuring that the next generation of rangers, hunters, photographers, kids, grandkids, families inherit a functioning ecosystem, not a collapsing one. Until we're ready to face that, we'll keep treating the Kruger National Park like a zoo, when what it really needs is a management grounded in both passion and practicality. And that is my opinion on the Kruger National Park. I even had a funny story for tonight's podcast, and I thought I should share it. But this topic was, I wanted to really sit with individuals, and I think on both sides of the coin, hunters and non-hunters, greenies, non-greenies, we really need to take a time to breathe and take this all in and understand what's at stake here. And the point of this podcast is, I hope this doesn't land on deaf ears and people really understand what I'm trying to get across. And hopefully there's some good points in there. Well, guys, that's the end of tonight's episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for an incredible couple of years. It's been amazing to see how we've grown to this point. But been a pain again. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would love for you guys to interact and tell me your opinion on the Kruger National Park. But as always, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.